major problem with the well. So here I am at the well, and the only thing you can see now is what I've gotten accomplished. I got this well house put on. I've got the stanchion in place. This is actually called a well liner. Then the well pump goes down there about 100 and, well, maybe 100 feet. I don't recall. But before I get too far into this video, I'm going to play a video that I made 2 years ago on how to install this. Now, it's going to be highly edited. It's not going to be as clean as the original, but I want to give you an idea of how this was installed. Even if you saw the video a couple years ago, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and watch this, because there's going to be things in there I'm sure you're not going to remember. I mean, heck, I rewatched it like 3 times before making this video so I could make sure I was explaining everything correctly. So with the editing, it may not make clean sense. I mean, for example, in the video I was showing you how to tape up the wiring. I probably will edit that out. So if you see me that I'm leading up to something and it's not there, then you'll know that I edited it out. Again, if you want to watch it, it's in the playlist. Go to my playlist on my channel and you can go down and it'll say well repair or something like that. I will also put an up next box at the end of this video of that video. But again, I think it's very important. I need to get the pump transferred from, well, the hose and the wiring transferred from the old pump to the new pump. Then I'm going to lower down the well packer while the flex glue is drying, along with the well liner, which is the PVC pipe here. Now see, I have 2 options that I want to try with my come along when I drag that into the well casing. Is I could hook it right here, put a PVC collar on here and hook my come along right here to the top. But I'm going to try this too. This is just a U-bolt that goes around it here, and I put a 2x4. The reason I did this is in case for some reason it decides to drop on its own, it won't fall into the hole. This will catch it. I'll also use this when it's all finished. I'll just put this right at the bottom where the floor of the well is, and then I'm going to concrete around this pipe. So here's where I'm going to glue on the well packer onto the PVC pipe, and I'm going to start sliding it down the hole. Okay, so I got the pipe into the ground. I don't know how much you can see here with all the, it's such a small space, it's hard to get a camera in here. So I'm going to leave this out of the ground like this. That way groundwater can't get into it. It'll be nice and high. I'm supposed to do it 3 feet. I think this like, I don't know, 3.5 feet. It doesn't matter. And so I'll lower the pump down into this. And then once I get the pump in, then I'm going to put a 90-degree elbow in here like this. And that way water can't get into it. I'll cap this off. I'll have to drill a hole so the pipe and the wire and the rope all can come out. Okay, so the pump's in. Now, I've got a little bar here that's tied to the rope. So all the weight now is on the rope. What you saw there was the installation of the well, but what you didn't see is why I did all that. The first thing you saw me do is the well pump itself. Now the well pump is a long cylindrical thing. I have a spare. The problem is it's buried. I buried it on purpose because I figured I'd never use it, and if I did, it would be years. But you can see in the video what it looked like. It's just a long cylindrical thing. You could actually use that for a lot of stuff. If you had a pond, you could throw that in the pond with that pipe on it, some sort of pipe, and you'd be able to get water out of the pond. You could actually make some sort of fountain with it, I would think, in a pond. It's just a regular pump. They call it a deep well pump because that's what it's primarily used for. Then you saw that I was putting in the well packer. The well packer had that black ring around it, and what that does is it holds tight up against the well casing. Now the well casing, when they drill the well out, they stick a steel pipe down in there that drags along the diameter of the hole they just drilled. That well casing keeps everything from falling down into the well, the dirt, rocks, whatever. Over time, if they didn't put that in there, the well would actually fall in on itself. Well casing is only designed to last 40 years, not very long, considering you could outlive your well. What they're hoping you do, I think, is just drill a new well. Or you can do what I did and get that well packer. Now, I've only seen one company that actually sells it. It was like, I don't know, $150 or so. Type into Google, well packer. It is difficult to understand. It's probably better if you call them up. I actually got the wrong one. I got the double-ended one where you could glue a pipe on both sides. I only needed to glue the pipe on one side, but it didn't matter. It worked fine. And so now you drag that down. The reason I put that in there is our well casing had a crack in it. And I figured that's where a lot of our dirty water was coming from, was the water was seeping down into the ground and coming into that well casing. So now that dirty water has probably settled in there now, in between the well casing and this pipe. This is a 4-inch pipe. The diameter of the well is 6 inches. So you got an inch, I guess, of space in between the pipe here and the casing itself. And that's filled up with dirty water, I'm sure. Now that packer keeps that water from draining down into your clean bedrock water. Then I built this well house, and that keeps the rain from coming down on it. Just anything I could do to repair this old, dilapidated well, and it has helped immensely. Now, when it floods, I still get dirty water. I don't know if there's anything I can do about fixing it. It's about once a year that happens. Not a huge issue. Probably a good idea to flush it out then anyways. Then you could, what they call, shock the well. You pour bleach in it, get all the bacteria out. I don't. I just filter my water, boil my water. But we live in a very clay area, lots of clay. When this thing got dirty, it was just that clay. You could see that dirt. It was just dirt. So I never got any sand, anything in there. Well, one of my subscribers who's been with me a very long time messaged me on Facebook this morning and said, "Hey Rob, I've got a well. It's an old well. Been using it for years to fill up the pool. And it has sand in it, in the water." He said, when it was in the pool, it's no big deal. But apparently he has hooked it up to his house. Now, I don't know that for sure. This is the second time he's messaged me about a well. I don't really recall what the first one was. But this time, he's getting sand in his house. He said he put filters on it, but apparently the sand is so fine that filters aren't working. So what I did when I initially did all this, and I've disconnected, I don't use these anymore, but I had these house filters, and those are 5-micron filters. I had 3 of them in line. I had a sediment filter, which is just a white paper, I don't know what it's called. And then I had 2 paper carbon filters. So you might be able to see all 3 of them there, 1, 2, 3. I don't use them anymore because now I know what's wrong with my well. I don't need to chase after cleaning the water. I got his message at 5 o'clock this morning, and I wasn't really thinking about his problem. And I told him I'd get back with him later in the week. Well, I went ahead and Googled it. What kind of filter will filter out sand? Again, not completely thinking about his problem. And the first article that popped up was, you have a bigger problem than filtering sand out. You have sand in your well. Why do you have sand in your well? Well, actually, this is a fairly common problem. Could be several problems. One of the problems, your well pump might be too low to the bottom of the well. We actually had this problem the first time I installed it. Well, I mean, I had a lot of problems, and I just had to work through each problem one by one until I got it resolved. But when you have that well pump way down there at the bottom, it's picking up that sediment down there at the bottom. Well, since you have sand in your well water, it's going to burn up your pump. It's going to grind away at it. It's just a centrifugal pump, I think is what it's called. And that pump is being sandpapered. It's basically what's happening. So eventually your pump is going to need replaced. The process to get your well pump out, I mean, it's an all-day thing. Getting it out, put a new one in. You saw me doing all this. I mean, and I was in a hurry, and I just done it a year before with the original pump. So you need to get your well fixed so it's not doing that. So what you can do is raise your pump up off the well floor. And they say about 20 feet. The problem is my well is so old that if I raised it 20 feet, I'd be out of water. So I think I raised mine maybe 10 feet off the bottom. and it seems to have helped a lot. Now, another problem you could have is your pump is just too powerful for your well, and it's bumping up against the walls every time it starts up, and it knocks that sediment down, in this case sand. Now, if your pump is too powerful, I think it's 1 horsepower. Mine isn't that strong, so I didn't need this. There is a thing you have to have in your plumbing, the black pipe that goes down, that actually buffers that. It's like a plastic spring. I mean, it's kind of funky looking, but you have to have that in line, otherwise your pump will bounce around if it's over 1 horsepower. One of the things I did was I drilled a hole in the side of the black pipe. That way my black pipe never freezes. Water will always drain back down into the well. The problem with that is that water draining back down can raise the sediment up in your well. I learned that the first time because I had the hole actually up here pretty high, like 2 or 3 feet down from the top of the well. So that water was falling nearly 100 feet. And when it just hit so hard. When I put the new pump in, the second pump, I drilled it maybe 70 or 80 feet down. That way the water was just kind of trickling down. So if you have a cracked pipe, which is quite possible, in your well, then it could be spraying out and slamming down and stirring up that sand in the bottom of your well. Then there is the little metal green on your pump, and they say that can also keep sand out of your pump. But that is not very fine. I mean, he's talking about a really fine sand if his filters aren't filtering it out. So I don't know if that's really a necessity, is that plate, that little screen on your pump is actually keeping the sand out. I don't think it would. But I would start with trying to figure out how far down your pump is. If it's sitting on the bottom, which is quite likely. My hose here actually stood out probably 6 inches out from the pipe. It has fallen down and drawn that pipe in. I guess the rope, I had it on the rope real taut. Maybe the knots have slipped or the rope has stretched a bit, allowing the pump to fall down a little bit. So now I would imagine quite a bit of the weight is on that pipe right there, which I don't actually like, and I might fix it one of these days. Right now it's not a problem. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm not going to lose the well. Rope is on it. And then you also have the wire that holds it to, that way you can get it out too. So you have 3 items actually holding your well up: the rope, the wire, and the pipe. So when you lower that down, you actually tape the rope and the wire around the pipe, and so you lower all 3 down at the same time. So hopefully, if you take these actions, you'll save your pump and get the sand out of your water without having to use filtration. You shouldn't have to use filtration. So if you'll click this up next box, it will take you that video, or the full-length video of this installation. So if I can inspire you to resolve these issues so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.